it's Miss Kirkland again, and I have my buddy Hart today.
Hi.
And we're going to talk to you again about some more science stuff that we got to discover this weekend in our backyard, and then some other things that we learned about. Our first thing that we're going to talk about is what we talked about last week, which was interdependence. If you guys remember, it was what? Do you remember what interdependence is, Hart?
When an animal and a tree or something go help each other.
That's right, but that's right. The way plants and animals, or when we have when two things depend on each other for survival. So we talked about last week how plants help animals and animals help plants, and that they need each other to survive. We talked about how trees create oxygen, and the animals have to have the oxygen to breathe, and in turn the animals create carbon dioxide, and that's what the plants need. And so we're going to talk some more about interdependence and how everything interacts with each other in nature. But before we get started, we are going to show you something that we created this weekend, and Hart has it right here. Let's see. Hart, what is it that we created this weekend?
Terrarium.
A terrarium. That's right. We created a terrarium. And in our terrarium, we have, what do we have?
Snail.
We have a snail. We have a little ecosystem is what it's called. And what did we put in our terrarium?
A plant.
Uh-huh.
We made air holes on the top.
That's right. We have air holes on the top so they can have air. What else is in it? What did we start with on the bottom?
Dirt, soil.
Soil.
A rock.
Some rocks.
And some grass.
Yep, some grass. And then we put a plant in there. And in fact, we found this really cool snail who's living in our terrarium. I think you can see him right there. He climbs all over the place. And this actually is an orange juice bottle that we drank all the orange juice out of. And we put it in here. So this is our terrarium. And we have been exploring it all week. We've been watching how all the things interact within our terrarium here. How the soil, what does the soil help with in here?
This plant makes it so high. Last time it was only up to here. Now it's up to here because of the soil.
That's right. We have the soil in there because it helps the plants grow. And then what feeds the plants? Do you know?
The snail.
No, the snail eats the plants, doesn't he?
Oh.
Yeah.
The grass.
The grass and the plants we sit them in the window, and they're in a clear container, and the sun actually gives nutrients to our plants and our grass, and then our snail eats our plants and our grass, and then the soil helps our plants grow. So we have a little ecosystem here that they're all working together to survive. And Hart actually helped us out, and he drew a diagram to help us understand it a little bit better.
That the rock and there's water in the soil, or the dirt if you see, and there's a tree right here. A plant, and there's a window here shining into it, and there's soil. And this right over here is a snail. Very good. Okay, so in our terrarium, we talked about and we're learning about how everything depends on each other, and how everything needs each other to keep going. So another thing that we're going to learn this week is actually about the food chain. And the food chain is connected to kind of like the interdependence. Things need other things to survive. And so I have made another chart right here. Let's see if you guys can get it. And this is our food chain chart. And it says a food chain shows how living things rely on each other for food. So that is very similar to interdependence because everything relies on each other. But in this way, we see how it works together. And so we are talking about the food chain this week. Down here, it shows how energy is moved through living things. Oh man, did you ever think about it? That the sun and the rain, that's where our food chain begins. And that gives our plants and animals energy so that they can grow, right? And they can feed themselves, our plants, and then they grow. And then our plants, very often, like this flower, it's gonna feed our butterfly. Our butterfly is gonna land on it, and it's gonna get the nectar it needs to have energy so that it can have food and so that it can grow. And then
Oh, but then there's another part of the food chain. A spider might come along. And what does the spider eat? The spider a lot of times eats insects like butterflies. And our spider will have to trap that butterfly and eat that butterfly because it has to have food and energy, right? It has to have energy in the form of food. And so it's going to eat that butterfly. All right, but then eventually that spider, guess what? He's going to get old and he's going to die, okay? And when our spider dies, or if he lives in Miss Kirkland's house, I might smush him because I don't really like spiders. But anyway, but when our spider dies, he is going to kind of go onto the ground and he's going to start decomposing. And that means he's going to start breaking down. And our earthworms here that we really got to look at last week, he's going to go in there and he's going to start breaking down this spider, and all of it, he's taking out all the nutrients, and it's going to go into the soil. And guess what? When the earthworm puts it all back in the soil, what's going to start growing with the soil? That's right, our plants, our flower. And so how it goes, and just goes right back around. It's going to be a chain because it's going to connect and come all the way back around. So once everything breaks down, the earthworm breaks it down, and it creates nutrients in the soil so that our plants can get fed by the sun and by the rain, and then start growing to feed our animals, and our animals can feed some more animals, and it just keeps going like that. So that's how we're talking about food chains this week and all the different ways that they interact with each other. So I want you to go this week, and I want you to focus on maybe one animal and think about the ways that it is in our food chain. Maybe how we talked about how the flower feeds the insects, and then what the insects feeds, and on, and see how far you can get your chain to go. So I hope you guys have a wonderful week. And if you have any questions, just be sure to shoot us a text or an email, and we'll be glad to answer them for you. And I hope you have a wonderful week, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.